In this video, we go back over some more of your teams that you've shared with me on Twitter, rating your FPL drafts. Is there any improvements I can make to your team, or have you pretty much got it nailed on? All of that coming up next. What the flock is going on, and welcome to the FPL Today YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me. And yes, I took a day off yesterday. Hope you can forgive me that. But we are back, we are fresh, we are revived for a video rating some more of your teams that you've shared with me on Twitter. So if you want, you can go and follow me on Twitter and share some teams, and maybe they'll make it into another Your Team video. I plan to do maybe 2 of these a week until the end of the season, with, of course, more information coming out and more insight into your sides as pre-season progresses. But we are starting off today with Nuclear Atoms team, FPL Atoms, who has been a fan of my channel for a while now, so thank you so much for the support, Nuclear, and also a fan of the Wildcats when it was going on. So thank you so much for your continued support, and it's a pleasure to have a look at your side for you. So we start off in goal with Meslier, who, to be fair, I think could be a good shout. Most people have gone Raya, and now with Strakoshka going, people are a bit iffy about Raya, so Meslier isn't a bad choice at 4.5 million. We've then got strong at the back with 4 absolute beasts in the back with Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo, who I think pretty much are enough said about that. We know why they're there. You've got Perisic, which we did talk about in the last video, who I do think could be a success in the Premier League. And we got Chilwell, who, again, we know what he can do. The problem is his injury proneness. But to be fair, that's the same issue we have with Reece James. So Chilwell could be the differential here. And to be honest, I do like it as a bit of a differential team. When, to be honest, at least in the community, it seems like a lot of us are going for very similar sides. In midfield, we have Luis Diaz, Salah and Neto. Again, another 3 players I've talked about before on this channel. But we have Saint Maximin there as well. Now, I like the idea of a Newcastle midfielder or a Newcastle player in general in your side, because I do think with their new ownership, the trajectory of that side will continue to improve, and I think they will become more and more important as the season goes on to own them. My issue with Saint Maximin is, one, at least he's a midfielder again, but I just don't think he's got the end product after all the silky moves and the speed. So I'm not a massive fan of Saint Maximin as an FPL option myself. That being said, he does have games where he can get good FPL returns. And if you want some Newcastle coverage and he's the one your gut is telling you to go for, then I don't see a problem with it. It's just not who I'd personally go for. Up front, we've got Jesus and Haaland, the exact same as I have up front in a 4-4-2, which is the exact same formation. So I've got to rate that. On the bench, we have the backup keeper to Meslier, which means limited funds spent on goalkeepers. And we've got Andreas, Ferguson and Greenwood. I might even be going over to Greenwood because I've got Taylor in and I don't think he's going to start. So the bench is nice and cheap. You've got a starting player on the bench in Andreas Pereira, and also Ferguson could get into that starting 11 for Crystal Palace. So I like the bench. I personally would still go Nico Williams because I think he's a bit more nailed on, but I can see why you'd prefer a Crystal Palace defender to a Nottingham Forest one. Next up, we have Marcus, champ-elect_FPL, who he's put a message with the team as well. Rare could be any 4.5 million keeper like Sanchez once Strakoshka signs, which we've covered already. Mount could be any £8 million midfielder like Diaz or Maddison. So I think he generally wants more of an idea of the structure of his side, and we have another 4-4-2. And to be honest, very similar to my side. I think the only differences we've really got is you've got Chilwell and I've got Reece James. I've got Tomiyasu and you've got Perisic. I've got Diaz instead of Mount. And then your bench probably looks a little bit stronger with Tomiyasu and Andreas Pereira. I think I've got Andreas Pereira and Nico Williams. That is to do with the fact that you spent less in your goalkeeping positions with Raya there and then just a goalkeeper that's £4 million. So overall, I have to say I agree with most of the decisions you've made because it's very similar to my side. I personally am not a massive fan of Chelsea options just yet. I need to see how they play next season. And I'm just more trustful of Liverpool assets in general, which is why I've gone Diaz instead of Mount. I've gone James instead of Chilwell because I feel like he's a little less injury prone, but both options are good. And I've not gone Perisic again because I want to see him play before I put him into my starting 11 and invest some more funds at the back. I personally do really like the £8 million midfielder slot though, because I do think Maddison could be a great shout after a certain amount of Leicester's fixtures have passed. So I'm really looking at Maddison for my Diaz spot, and I think you should be doing the same with that Mount spot. But Mount at the beginning of the season isn't too bad a shout at all. I just prefer Diaz myself. Next up, and we move away from the 4-4-2, and it's Juiced, FPL_Juiced. And we can see that he's got 5 at the back, 3 in midfield and 2 up front. Now, Edison in goal is a great shout. You know what you're getting with Edison. You're getting a nailed-on starter in that Man City starting 11, and that means you will get the clean sheet, and you don't have to worry about the Pep roulette that is always a concern when the team sheets come out for Manchester City. So that's a great shout. You've also doubled up on Man City defence. Again, I can't argue with that, because if they get those clean sheets, everybody else only gets 1 clean sheet while you go and get 2. Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, again, another double up. And if you're going to double up on 2 defences, I think Man City and Liverpool make the most sense. So I do quite like that. And James and Perisic, I think that means you've basically got 6 great players who could score you lots of points. So I actually really like the idea of that 5 at the back. The reason I haven't done it myself, again, and I've said it before, is the bench just gets affected quite significantly. But some news has come out recently that maybe helps out with that bench. So we then got Salah, Bruno Guimaraes and Neto in midfield. I cannot argue with any of these players. I like Neto as a punt for this season after what he showed before his injury last season. Bruno Guimaraes proved himself coming into that Newcastle side last season in the January transfer window. And Salah speaks for himself, as does Haaland. And I think a lot of people are betting on Jesus being a good shout for this season at the beginning. Your bench, you do have Andreas Pereira. Again, we've all spoken about him already. But you do have De Silva. Now, De Silva was a good midfield option for Brentford last season, but then he got an injury and didn't really feature for Brentford, and they kind of had to build a team without him. Potentially that means he might not stay at Brentford. Potentially it means he might work his way back into that starting 11. There is some rumours that there are teams like Nottingham Forest interested in De Silva, and I think that would make De Silva a much better option, and a 4.5 million midfielder I could definitely get on board on having on my bench. So I do like the potential in De Silva. And then you got Greenwood. Again, he's just taken up that striker slot. He's probably going to have limited minutes, but he will get some minutes at least. So that is why he's there until we can find a different 4.5 million striker option. But the side overall looks very good with, I'd argue, 9 players that are pretty good shouts in top teams. And finally, we got Ray. Go and follow him on Twitter. He puts out some great content on there, and also is just generally a great guy. Is now also an All About FPL contributor, if you know about that website. So definitely go and check him out on Twitter. And he's asked me to rate his side. If you didn't know, we had a bit of a rivalry while the Wildcats was going on, and he did beat me that season. Of course, the season where we didn't have the rivalry in front of everyone on the Wildcats, I did win, but never mind. This year, we'll see who goes 2-1 for best rank of the season. So we're looking at the side, and he does say took out Raya based on the transfer. Again, that would be Strakoschka. And then we got Vestergaard would change to Nico Williams. I've just realised I've been saying Nico the whole time. Could be Neko. Apologies to any fans of the Williams from Liverpool. Anyway, we got Mendy in goal. Great shout. £5 million for a Chelsea goalkeeper. It just makes sense. Alexander-Arnold, Perisic, James and Cancelo. Ray, I would love to give you more insight, but I've kind of already done it on this video and the previous one. We've also got very similar midfielders. Salah, Diaz and Neto. All players I have, as well as Martinelli. So I think Jesus and Haaland also in my side. Andreas Pereira also in my side. So we have very similar teams. Where we differ is you've got Mendy and I've still got Raya at the moment. I've heard, at least from some sources, that Raya may still be the number 1. Again, I've already mentioned this. I'm not sure Strakoschka would go to Brentford if he wasn't going to get significant game time. So I am concerned about Raya in goal. Mendy is a nice easy fix, and I have the money to just go straight to Mendy, but I always kind of prefer going for the £4.5 million goalkeeper. And to be honest, sometimes I like my goalkeeper to be a little bit of a differential. Pope is someone I'm considering now at Newcastle, because I think he might get saves and clean sheets. So that's just my personal take on the goalkeeper, but I definitely can't argue with Mendy at all. Perisic, I'm not going for at the beginning, but it is a good risk to take. so I can see why he's in the side. And if he does hit the ground running and he has played for Conte before, I think it's a great shout. So overall, I think this is a great side. Of course I do, because it's extremely similar to mine. But Ray, what I would love is closer to the season start, if we have a look at our sides again in this video or in some sort of other content and compare them then, because I think maybe there'll be more options closer to the beginning of the season than there is right now, because a lot of people have very similar players. Anyway guys, that is it for this video. So if you have enjoyed it, thank you so much for joining me first of all, and go and check out the links in the description down below. And while you're there, if you could hit the like button and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated, supporting the channel as we make as much content for you as possible for pre-season. With all that being said, I've been JNO, this has been FPL Today, and remember, it's all about the game.